really surprised. But what the great thing about critique is, I think anyway, is that you can look outside this monolithic thing, or this sort of structure of assumptions, say for instance the exam system or whatever it is, and you can stand outside for a moment from a more objective point of view and say, should we be doing this? But sometimes, of course, the answer could be actually yes, because there are only so many ways of doing this, and this way might be better.
I don't think that's true about Maths GCSE.
No,
though.
but I'm just using it as just a very general example,
okay.
Sort of the way we do things. Critique, you don't always have to be.
Okay, and that probably leads us rather neatly into our next point, which is about satire and critique.
A comical way of challenging the status quo and tackling assumptions, you can use language to do this as much as thought.
And in this, let me give you an example of critique before we start. This is from my philosophy show. Hello, this is one of the very few times I'm not the world's greatest impersonator, but I can't resist it for this one. This actually is proper philosophy. It comes from Aquinas. Aquinas, amongst many other wonderful things he wrote one of the most scary things in all of philosophy, a justification of war. And this became terribly important about 5-6 years ago during the build-up to the Iraq War, because it was the one document that Tony Blair read. So I do this in two voices, as medieval philosophy is always written in two voices. I do it as the Aquinas, the master, and I do it as his assistant. Article. Whether you know whether a war is just or no. Oh, yes, please. Have you a list of the objections? Yes. There were, I found in my time, 4 main reasons people didn't like war. First, there were those innocent souls who said that war involves killing, and killing is murder, and murder is a sin, so war is a sin. Second, there were the often rather self-interested parties, other nations, French or whatever, who would say, now is not the time. We can carry on lining our pockets now. We don't need war now. And then there was those people, poor little innocents, who would say, we're at peace. We don't want war. Why should we go off and fight and bleed in a foreign land? And finally, I had lots of these. There were those inveterate peacemongers. You know the types, the ones who always worried about the excessive militarization of society. Well, I think I can answer all these objectors, but first let me show you when a war is just. Oh, yes, please. A war is just when it is a defensive war. We will have no aggressive wars here. What? Defensive? It's got to be defensive. So suppose you've got an enemy who's got weapons and they're going to use them in about 2 hours' time. 2 hours? That seems long. All right, say 45 minutes, and they're going to flog them to an enemy of yours. Would that be a just war? Well, it sounds so, as long as you believe, as the leader, this is true. Oh, I believe it, all right. Second, if you're going to have a just war, it must be waged with the proper, true authority to wage it. Hang on, how do you know what the proper authority is? I mean, is it the UN? We'll never get a resolution passed then. I mean, who do you know? That is up to the duly appointed leaders to examine in their conscience whether they think this war is just or no. What? All I need is my conscience? Really? Oh, say on. Third, if you must know whether you have a just war or not, ask yourself this. Is this a war for profit? For if it is for profit, it is never just. Oh. But suppose you fight for a just reason and get a profit from indirect means. Suppose you suddenly become wealthy because there happens to be a mineral there. Well, that is a sign of God's special providence and of no matter. Now to answer your list of objectors. To those who say that killing is murder and murder is a sin, I say they have confused what a state can do and what an individual can do. If I kill you, that is a sin. But if my state tells me to do it, well, that is something quite different. Oh, good. Second, to those who say this is not the time of war, I tell them that there is never a right time of war. How could they be? In the end, war, it's a judgment call. Third, to those who say we're at peace, we don't want war, I say there are many evil peaces in the world. The peace of Beelzebub, the peace of Mammon. Sometimes, then, you need war. If to want peace, you've got to prepare for war. And finally, I know the answer to the last one. To those who worry about the excessive militarization of society, we tell them to get real. Aquinas' philosophy, Tony Blair's style. Oh, thank you.
Splendid, splendid. And that, I mean, you can imagine that at the Hatherley Festival, can't you? In a packed pub. I mean, that there were some surprise drinkers there, I can tell you.
But the satire is beautiful because, okay, I'm reading it in. Aquinas means it generally. He's genuine. That is the genuine argument in Aquinas in Summer for the Just War. But the point is that argument has been used again and again and again to justify all kinds of conflicts, but recently Iraq. But time again, it resurfaces. It's still the official doctrine, if you like, of the world about whether you can fight a just war or not. And of course, as I always used to tell my students, you can justify anything, any conflict almost, because there are enough get-out clauses. And satire, for me, is what allows you to explore that. It also allows you to explore one of the problems of being a leader. Some you can hear, and people will say it, power corrupts. But it's not so much that power corrupts, so much as that power means you have to think in a way that's different. If you think, as normal human beings, we just reckon up situations. But if you're a leader, you have to think very much in terms of abstracts. You have to think about the poor, how you're going to help or harm the poor, how you're going to make the unemployed work or not. And actually, they don't apply very well to the world. And we all know that. We all have a political system designed almost to make that okay. But satire is one of the ways you can laugh at people for getting too abstract. So you get someone like Jon Stewart on the wonderful, wonderful Daily Show, laughing both at politicians but also at the critique. He recently did a wonderful one about all the commentators saying, Obama doesn't get it.
It, yes. So what's it?
What's it? Well, of course, what it is an abstract idea to explain the fact that he's had a major loss, and that is it. So it's something he can't get.
Well, and also it is a stick to beat him with, whatever it is, and they all meant something subtly different by it, which is what he was drawing out, the ludicrousness of other journalists' language.
And satire is how you can explore that beautifully and hilariously.
And the wonderful thing about Jon Stewart is he's one of those satirists that's actually aware that it's very complicated, so that what he's aware of is however much he slates things and slags them off, you can only change things so much, or sometimes you can't, and sometimes there wasn't another way of doing it. And also, to wield the power is very different. It's easy, in a sense, to criticise something. It's much harder to actually stand there and do whatever it is, or change whatever it is you're meant to be doing. I mean, that's really tough.
Talking of which, I think you have another poem for us.
Well, this is this is critique as in terms of corporate things rather than anything else, and it's called "Have You Been Branded?" And oh God, it's going to appear on the Pemmican press site in December.
It's one you've got published.
Or January or something. Yes, it is, and it's also from the Book of Offences, and it's kind of the bonus track to that because well, it just is, and it was written from a hideous. I think it was a shampoo advert, so half of this is actually real sentences, but in a different order. So there you go. Have you been branded? This brand is enjoyable to use. This brand helps me achieve the look I want. This brand helps me to look my best. This brand helps me to look well-groomed. This brand helps me to express my individuality. This brand helps me underline my own personality, makes me feel like I'm doing the best for myself, makes me feel confident. This brand gives me the style I need so I can concentrate on the important things in life. This brand inspires me to experiment with my look. This brand makes me feel attractive to others. This brand makes me feel like a smart shopper. I feel like this brand acts in my best interest. I love this brand. This brand was tested on primates, chopped down a rainforest, prompted an oil slick. This brand added to landfill, polluted a river, endangered a species, employs slave labour. This brand releases chemicals into drinking water. This brand treats its workers like shit. This brand stops the poor growing crops. This brand helps to melt some more of the ice caps. This brand makes my blood run cold. This brand I wouldn't touch with a barge pole.
Isn't there a third section to that?
There is, but seeing as Pemmican wanted just their first two verses, I thought I'd leave it at that.
All right, and this is Money is Not Our God.
Money is not our God, really?